All right, everyone. I have no idea. Um, YouTube, the biggest issue I have, hopefully people will find this stream. Um, the biggest issue I have with YouTube, Facebook, etc., they make changes and they don't tell you. They just don't. Um, you'll just, as things buttons will just appear and then they'll disappear and then they'll come back. I just don't know. I think what it is people just trying to keep their jobs. So they keep switching things around because if they just left things the same way, that then they wouldn't have their job anymore. It's like planned obsolescence, I guess you'd say. I'm going to do some things here. Don't know what happened. So just bear with me for a second. I know a lot of you are probably just finding this new stream anyway. So just bear with me. I'm here. So there you go. I don't know. Usually I just go right. I just don't get it. You get no warnings. If you have a channel on YouTube and you're known for doing live streaming, etc., posting videos, they should send you a message saying, you know what, we changed something. Never get that, ever. And so I went in here like I usually do to hit the button to start the stream. The button's not there, and there's no instructions on what to do. So I just don't know. I can't, and I think I'm a fairly smart guy regarding all of this. And I have no idea. Check that. Sheree, thank you for leaving a message over there. And we'll just do the best we can. I know last week we had some streaming issues too. In fact, we had some streaming issues on the think tank on Sunday night. I think the reason is because there's a lot more people in this building now, and people are soaking up the Wi-Fi, as the saying goes. And so here we go. Nothing's easy. Nothing can just be very straightforward. So, but there you go. Thank you all for finding the new stream. Like you wanted to do that, but here we are. And I hope everybody's doing better there than I am here. So, as you know, here, Dad's over in the other room. He turned the TV down so you wouldn't be able to hear it. And let's get started with the live show. 10 minutes late. It's been beautiful here. Some of the things that I've been doing, maybe you saw if you are a friend of mine on Facebook. You know that my dad and I went and saw Christmas lights last night, and I took a video of that. So some of you got to see that. And then today my dad has been having tooth issues, and so I found him a dentist, and he's going to have to get a tooth yanked on Monday. Okay. And we tried to get it done today or tomorrow. Just the horrible, worst time of the year to try to get anything medical done unless it's an emergency. So we scrambled around and did that for a couple hours today. Worked on the update episode, which is coming out this Friday, that I'll be talking about later. And so we got a lot to talk about still, even though it's just been a week and my other computer is going slow. Just wanted to show you a couple things. Before we get started, I want to thank, I already posted this, but here's the card that Paula sent me. So I felt like I had to post that. So thank you, Paula, if you're out there tonight. Deeply appreciate this card that I got. And I also have to give a shout out to Kim. I don't know if she's in here, but I got this today. This gift, a very Merry Discmas. And I just got this like an hour ago. The package got here. So such a thoughtful gift. I don't have a tree to hang it on, but very cool. Anything that I get that concerns disc golf is always very special to me. And in fact, I still have this picture right here that I got, which was very neat. So those are some of the things that I've gotten recently in the Christmas season. And so let's just see who's in here a little bit. Hello, a little bit. Jasmine, Ruth, thank you for all finding me on this new link. Laura, Jill, Suzanne, Eileen, Twinkle, Cherie, and thank you for leaving the message over on the other stream. Delane, Charlotte, Kathy, Angela, Karen. Ruth says, yeah, YouTube is crazy like that family member. You never know what to expect. Yeah. YouTube sounds like where I used to work, change stuff and not tell you. Yeah, happens. Everything's fine. And then all of a sudden it's working nice. And it just worked that way on Sunday night for the think tank 3 days ago. And now here we are 3 days later, no announcement of any changes. It just is. They're always messing around with something. Yeah. It's like the crazy never. Yeah. Yeah. I have one certain crazy family member. So, yeah, tooth pain is bad. Like I posted, it's not bad going to the dentist when you're the one who isn't the patient. Tooth pain is terrible. If he's in pain, I know a little remedy. I'll message you later. Yes, it's perfectly legal. A Merry Christmas, Suzanne, to you too. All the usual suspects. Yes, usual suspects. Hello, Paula. Paula, I just showed your card a little bit earlier. There you go, right there. So I want to thank you for the card. I want to thank you for it once again. Here's the ornament that I got that says Merry Discmas on it. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. So my sister is also in town. She's over in Orlando, but she's going to be coming over here for Christmas on Friday. And we'll be getting together. And then I'm going to be heading over there Saturday to play a little disc golf. I have to practice for a couple courses that I'll be playing that weekend right after New Year's. So I'll probably be going out Saturday morning, coming back Sunday evening, maybe after we do the think tank. Maybe I'll do the think tank from Orlando. We'll just have to see, because I have to get back on Monday morning because I have to take my dad to get his tooth pulled. All right, let's get into, let's see. I love you. I feel like your dad. I'm having a root canal on the 28th. Yikes. Okay, Ruth. Ouch. I had a root canal done in 2000. That was the last one. Yep. Not cheap, Twinkle. It's not cheap. Hello, Nicole. Good to see you. Let's take a question first. I've got quite a few good questions tonight. So, Amanda, I know I've answered this before, but Amanda asked me, what's the deal with the camel? You know, what's going on there? Well, I don't know how long it started ago, but being that the live show always occurs on Wednesdays, there was a connection made between this always happening on Wednesdays and the what is it? Geico commercial with the camel. You know, he's walking around happier than a camel on Wednesday. Going, what day is it? What day is it? Tell me what day it is. What in that camel's walking around the office. And that kind of, there was a connection made between this show always happening on Wednesday and that Geico commercial, because that's, happier than a camel on Wednesday. And it just kind of all came together now that I joke around. Yeah, a little bit is the camel girl. Yeah, she is. And then I think Kim has started posting some camel stuff too. It just kind of came together that way. And so then on Wednesdays, it's become this thing that on Wednesdays, then I joke thing. I guess it's been a year. I don't know, maybe longer than that. I'd have to go back and check. But it just became a thing. And so every Wednesday, when I post the link to the live show, I always mention something having to do with something, the Christmas season or my birthday or something going on in the news. And then I will equate that to the camel. And so the camel has become the unofficial mascot of the program. Shree says, I don't know. It's totally out of my hands. I don't know why it's doing this, but if it's buffering for some people, it's probably because all the Wi-Fi is getting sopped up in this, even though I have my own individual Wi-Fi, it all comes in on the same line, and there's a lot more people here than there usually are. And so everything gets divided up, and probably because of COVID and everything's probably even more people here than usual. So, I wish I could fix it, but I don't think I can. So we'll just have to deal with it. We're having enough problems with this live show tonight to start as it is. There's Wi-Fi vampires. That's true. So, Amanda, that's how the camel stuff all got started, and it just continues on and on and on and on and on. And I enjoy it. I enjoy getting creative with the camel stuff. My granddaughter wants a unicorn for Christmas. Does the camel know where I can get one? I don't think so. I don't think my camel knows any unicorns. So I don't think so. And even if the camel did, even if he did, I don't know if it'd tell me. He's very jealous like that, a little stuck up, he's gotten all that attention from the Geico commercial, people start asking him about other animals. He gets very defensive. So that's I'm not sure I can help you with that. The camel was closed lip. That's exactly right. All right. So that answers the camel question. Maybe I should put that in a Q&A. Maybe it is in a Q&A, one of those Q&A episodes. I'll have to maybe plan that for the next one when I do it in April. Maybe I'll have to maybe Natasha and I should just get together and do a video just on that. So when people do ask me that, I can just point them to the video. There's an idea. All right, let's go to some of the items for tonight's program. Santiago's poll. That was the poll that happened this past. That was the disappearance that happened this past Friday. A lot of people think that caused her disappearance, and the think tank, it was the same. And in fact, in the think tank, a popular theory is that it was true that they had this argument and that Bonnie was trying to leave. So she was moving things from the house out, and the phone, her flip-flops, etc. And in the process of doing this, Javier did something to her. And the reason the keys are missing is because the keys were on Bonnie when something happened, and then they remained on her when Javier took her to dispose of her. That is a theory that is out there. It certainly fits the facts, but the problem is a lot of other different scenarios fit the facts as well. But that was one that we talked about at length in the think tank on Sunday night. I have to tell you that my reasoning was a little bit different. And in the Patreon blog, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, if you'd like to read the blogs that I write or become a part of the think tank, once again, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. I put forward the idea that she walked off, that this is not a foul play situation. the things that stand out to me is that, the keys being missing and her medication being in the van kind of catch my attention, that I think it is fairly probable that she did go out there to sleep the night away and then walked off. So we have to remember that I think there was alcohol involved in this argument. And it certainly could mean that Javier did something he shouldn't have done. But, the problem I have is that I think that if he did something to Bonnie, that he would have used her van to, dispose of her. But if the keys are missing, then that means Javier, disposed of them. So I came to a little different conclusion than a majority of the people did, either in the group or in the think tank. But I don't think any of the theories that I've heard contradict what we know regarding the facts of where things were found. And some of those things were staged. And we did talk about that in the think tank as well. Is it possible that the phone was staged, the medication was staged? And at least in the think tank, nobody, really bought into that. Everybody seemed to believe that those items were there and put there by Bonnie. Cherie asked me, walked off and left everything to go where? I don't know. I don't know, Cherie. If, for example, with Robbie hurt, and we're going to talk about that. Of course, we already talked about it last week. If those remains are close to his truck, why did he run off? Now, he might have been on drugs or something, but I think what we're learning here is that maybe more people walk off than we realize. Why did Crystal Morrison walk off? I don't think we're ever going to know that. So the point that sticks out to me regarding Javier is that if he did do something to her, then why didn't he follow through with his plan the next day and let everybody know that she was missing? Whereas it seems more likely to me, if he didn't have anything to do with it, then he might be a little clueless that next day. So I'm certainly open to the idea that he walked off. I guess what I'm saying is that is my main theory. Maybe putting it in another way, I'm more open to the idea that she walked off than I guess most of you are. I think most people really, really believe that Javier did something to her, which once again does not contradict the facts. I'm just not as bought into that theory, and something else seems to be more likely to me. But for once, we know how rare this is, being that I talk about the polls every week. We know that the poll and the think tank rarely agree, but this was one week where they did. Many times it's the opposite. This time they were the same, and I guess I'm the odd one out, which I don't mind. Hello, Alice. How are you? Bruce says, I think he killed Bonnie because he was losing control. Maybe. I guess that's a good reason as any. Could have been an accident. Twinkle says, I just don't think women just walk off as much as men do. I don't know if there's a statistic to back that up, Twinkle. I just don't know. Delaney, if they ever get to search that property, I believe they will find her remains and find she died of natural causes. Yeah, and that's been the other part of it, that whole area has not had a good search done because of the owner not wanting any bad publicity. But then we have to start thinking, if it was foul play, whether it was Javier or somebody else, would they really put her remains on that property somewhere? I think if she's found on the property, I think that means that it was died after she just walked off. I think if she's not found on the property, I think that then could get me start to leaning toward yes, that she was murdered. All right, so let's move on. It's cold here in PA, as most folks already know. Yeah, I'm sure it is, Alice. Thanks. Bradley Brooks. This is something that is developed, and you should know that I'll be talking about this in the update episode this Friday. But Bradley Brooks and there were some remains found on Flower Bluff. That is that area where he and Ashley were living at the time. That's the area where his car was found. And some remains were found the end of last week. And they were not far away from where his car was found at all. The way I would put it, if you were to look at a satellite view, his car was found to the north. There's like a water processing plant or something there. And these remains were found to the south of that. Not far, maybe a quarter mile, maybe a little farther than that, but surely not much farther than that. The remains were found by accident. There were no searches going on, but by a dog walker in the area, and they are currently examining who these remains might be. Now, I know that the knee-jerk reaction is, well, that has to be Bradley for a variety of reasons. Because it's almost a little bit like an island. I mean, what are the odds that these remains are found so close to his car? But I can tell you that I've not talked to Misty, his sister, but I have talked to Ashley, his girlfriend at the time, who he was living there right in Flower Bluff at the time. She does not live there anymore. But I can't tell. I don't think I can go into why. But I will tell you this, is that it doesn't seem to me that neither Ashley nor Misty think this is Brad. There are things, one thing in particular that they've heard about the remains that lead them to believe that it is not Brad, as surprising as that may be, given that the remains were found so close to where his car was. As Ashley told me, I think I can say this, she was down in that area when they were doing the search, when all this came out. And this came out in the interviews that I did with Misty and Ashley, is that this is an area that is popular with homeless people. In fact, that was a major topic of the interviews is, could there have been homeless people in the area when Brad was, cruising around? It's a known place for homeless people to hang out near the water. And in fact, Ashley said when she was down there this past weekend, that she did see some abandoned homeless, encampments or something like that. But at this point, and I think that this has even been posted on Bradley's Facebook page, there are a lot of doubts whether this is Bradley Brooks. A lot of doubts. Could change in a second. But what Ashley has been told about the remains, one thing in particular, leads her to believe that it is not Bradley. So I just wanted all of you to know that. I'm sure you've seen the stories. They've been posted in the group and on the page. Of course, Bradley's disappearance is one we just covered a few months ago. And it might be very, very fresh in all of your minds. And I think that, though, at this point, it's a very much a wait and see situation, that we should not be jumping to any conclusions regarding this, even though I know it's very seems sensible to do so. No different than these remains, which I still don't think we have any new information regarding these remains that were found near where Robbie Hurt's truck was left. At least I've not heard anything. I talked about it last week, but I've not seen any new information. And we all know how long DNA tests can take. Austin Pivo, Andre Bowman, 6 months, if not more. And I had told Ashley that, and she was very surprised. And I said, that's the way it is. It can be anyway. So unless there's something else that comes up, it may very well be a while before we find out whether this is Bradley or not. But once again, she, of course, did not get to see the remains of Ashley, but someone who was involved in the process of seeing the remains and getting the remains passed along some information to her, which leads her to believe that it's not Bradley. But maybe this person could be lying to her for purposes for whatever, or they missed something. I think that's all I really feel comfortable saying. At this time, I think that's all I can really say. Thank you, Alice. I appreciate it. And how am I? Great, Betty. Thank you. Some call them tent city for homeless. Yeah, I guess that is one word for it. And a tent city. I don't think that's what Ashley called it, but okay. Hello, Betty. Jody, hello. And how long does an autopsy take? Just depends, Alice. I mean, depends how much of the remains are left. Depends. I'm just talking about DNA tests can take a long time. Now, of course, DNA, it's very easy to get from remains, especially if we're to believe it's Bradley, who only went missing in 2019. But DNA tests can take at least 6 months, if not longer. An autopsy obviously takes less than that, but just because they do an autopsy does not mean that there will be answers. I mean, we got an autopsy in Tom Brown's disappearance, and we still don't have a cause of death. And that's been almost 2 years now. So I just don't know. I don't know what to, but autopsies can be done very quickly, but that doesn't mean that they really give you the answers that you're looking for. Pamela, I'm arriving late and not sure what the discussion is, so I will have to watch the replay. We're talking about remains being found near where Bradley Brooks went missing. Pamela, that's what we're talking about. And as I was saying, his girlfriend at the time, Ashley, who was there and was one of the last people to see Brad, there's been information that has been passed to her to cause her to believe that it's not Bradley. And I was just explaining why that might not be Bradley, and because this is a known place for homeless people. And I was also remind you that EquiSearch, and there was a lot of, when Bradley disappeared, they looked all over that area and didn't find anything. So did they search this particular area where these remains were found? I don't know, but it sounded pretty complete to me. This seems like an area that would have been searched, but I wasn't there. All right. Let's go to another question, if it's going to allow me to do so. I think for some reason my other computer's acting weird too. You're welcome, Pamela. Somebody asked me, what are some of my memorable Christmas gifts? And I could think of two that really jump out to me. That one was going back, I think, to high school. And the reason that it sticks out to me is because, growing up, I will tell you, in my family, I was, I would not say I was restricted or anything, but heavy metal, rock and roll. Marcy asked me this. Favorite Christmas gifts. Rock and roll, heavy metal was not really exalt, kind of, gone in that direction. I don't know. I don't know what year it was. Was it 88? Maybe 1988. Led Zeppelin box set had come out, and it's the one had 4 discs, and it had the crop circles on the cover. Maybe some of you who are older, who into that music, remember it was like a gold cover with the crop circles. You know what crop circles are. It's supposed to be something from Aliens. Of course, it's not. But I got that as a Christmas gift, and I was so shocked that I got it because Led Zeppelin was persona non grata in my house. So that's one that sticks out. And Jamie says that would still make a great gift 32 years later. I agree, Jamie. I'm sure you can get it. Of course, people these days just get Spotify or something, and you can probably get it on there. But if you actually want to have the discs, in fact, I still have the discs 30 years later. That's a gift that really sticks out to me because it's so odd, and I was shocked to get it. And the other gift that kind of sticks out to me is just from a few years ago. I guess that would be 5 years ago now that I got my first gun, which was a Glock 19 that I still have. It's the gun that I carry with me everywhere. And so that sticks out from just a few years ago. So we have something from like 1988, 89, somewhere in there. And then we have a gift from 5 years ago, although technically I did not. It was a Christmas gift, but I didn't get it until January. So those are a couple of the gifts that just jump out at me. I have to admit that a lot of Christmases for me kind of just run together. I spent a lot of Christmases by myself when I lived in Las Vegas. No big deal. Christmases here in Florida by myself. No big deal. So, but of course I've gotten a lot of things and that's great. But those are a couple of the ones that really, really stick out to me. The Led Zeppelin box set that was new in 1988. And then my Glock 19 Gen 3 Glock 19 that I got as a Christmas present for Christmas 2015, although I did not get it to 2016. Of course, since then, I've gotten 3 other guns. In fact, you're going to see another one of them in a bit because of another question that somebody asked me. What do we got going on here? Delane says, we are coming on the 3-year anniversary of my best friend's daughter's death in an accident. Still no autopsy report in North Carolina. Delane, certainly like to know more about that. If you wanted to pass that information along to me privately. I don't, of course, Delane, we've talked a lot. I don't know if you've ever told me about that. If you have, I apologize if I've forgotten, but I'd certainly like to hear more about that just for my own information. Alice, I asked because they found my stepniece dead in a hotel in Ohio almost 2 months ago and still haven't given the results or autopsy. Alice, it's just, it just depends, Alice. If they think there was foul play, then really they would have no reason. They're under no obligation to release an autopsy if they think it's foul play. Now, if it's obvious that it was a suicide or an overdose, then that might be something different. But if there is an outside chance that they think that there was foul play or somebody gave her a hot shot or, however she died, whatever her cause, if they were able to determine the cause of death, if they think that it was foul play, then they're allowed to keep that under wraps. The police really don't have to tell you anything. So I'm going to guess that these autopsies were done, but it very well may be that they are sealed for reasons that they don't want, causes and names and things to get out. That's the first thing that I think of. I only have experience with missing persons cases, of course, in those situations. There are only autopsies done once people are found, of course, deceased. And so we don't talk about autopsies too much. Alice says she remembers the Led Zeppelin album. Eileen has it. Your parents got you the handgun. Yes, that's true, Delane. They did. Twinkle, a lot less stress when you spend Christmas alone. I'm digging it. That's true. Pamela, was the box set on vinyl? No, it was on CD. I maybe you could get it on records, Pamela, but I got it on CD. I'm guessing at that time maybe you could got them on cassettes. Maybe be a ton of cassettes because there was a ton of songs, but mine was 4 CDs. Alice, Christmas alone is great. No having to bear ungrateful people complain about what they didn't get. Ruth, I agree. Chad, G19, excellent choice. I had a G17 when I lived in LA. It's a big gun. That's the bigger version of the Glock 19, Chad. It's like the police kind. I'd be interested to know if, well, of course, if you're in LA, then technically you're only allowed to have a magazine with so many rounds in it and everything else. So, and I know they don't give out concealed carry licenses very easily in that area either. So, might want to hear a little bit more about that, Chad. Alice, okay, I wasn't aware of that. She was on heroin, so I think it was an overdose. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Alice, but maybe there's an outside chance they thought that somebody gave her. Maybe they suspect that she was not in that hotel room alone. And that would certainly factor into the information that they're going to give out. All right. Let's move on. So those are a couple of my Christmas gifts that stick out to me. Let's move on to a couple other things. I'm not going to give you the name of the missing person yet, but I had an opportunity. These kinds of situations don't come upon me very often, but I had a chance to talk to an investigating detective on a disappearance that we'll be covering next Friday. And had a very good conversation with this guy. And in fact, next week, I will be linking to an interview that this guy did regarding this disappearance earlier this year. And I want you to know that my attitude is always the same. And that is, I don't ask many questions of that person, the investigating detective, because I know they're not going to tell me anything anyway. But I make sure that I tell this person anything that I've learned. And in this particular disappearance, this was important because I've gotten to talk to, I'll be doing the interview on Sunday, but I got to talk to a couple of the people who last saw this missing young man. And it seems that this investigating detective found out about that. And so he called me, and then I called him back and we talked. And I told him what these, I don't know if you want to call them witnesses, but people who last saw this missing young man, what these two people had to say. And always that I am as forthright, 100% transparent as is humanly possible. I'm not going to try to hold things back because there's some scoop that I personally want to reveal or anything like that. I'm here to help. And if this guy is working on this disappearance, which is, how old is that disappearance now? 9 years old. He probably has his hands full anyway, and I want to try to make his job as easy as possible. And so we had a good conversation. I did most of the talking, which is fine, but these situations don't happen too often. So when they do, I want to tell you about them, and I will have an opportunity to talk more about this conversation next week when I can reveal a little bit more about the circumstances of the disappearance and all these other phone conversations and everything else. I think the last time this happened was the disappearances of who were they? I always get the names crossed up. Daniel Brayden and where are they? There they are. Daniel Brayden and Jansen Brewer. It must have happened in 2019 sometime that investigator from the district attorney's office called me. And you heard that I had a conversation, if you remember, Scotty from that disappearance. I had an opportunity to talk to him, a couple other things. And this investigator wanted to know about those conversations. And luckily it was on Messenger. So I sent him copies of those conversations. I've not talked to that guy since. That disappearance hasn't been solved. I don't think anybody's been charged with anything, but he wanted the information and I gave it to him. So he, I don't know if he got anything. I don't know if I told him anything new or not, but he of course would probably not tell me anyway. Let's see some of these. Welcome, says the killer. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about that in a bit regarding Unique Harris. Welcome. Thank you. Chad says, basically, Glock 17 home defense only, locked in car trunk, unloaded, and to and from the range. Right. Sorry that you live in California, LA area, Chad. Yeah, Jasmine. Unique Harris, somebody has been charged with her murder. Her remains, to my knowledge, have not been found yet, but I'm going to be talking about that in a moment. For all you Patreon people, there will be no blog this week. It's an update episode, so that's like a blog just within itself. So, just want to let all of you know that we'll be doing the think tank on Sunday evening. We'll still do that So we'll talk about some of the updates and what we all think about them for you premium Patreon members. But there will be no blog this week. I mean, like I said, you do an update episode, that's essentially a blog. Giving you updates, my opinions on some of the things that have transpired. You get it all right there. Something that you don't with the episodes where I don't do any theorizing at all. Whereas with the update episodes, I've done a little bit of theorizing and looking back, hindsight 2020 type of stuff that you will surely hear this Friday. By the way, this update episode this Friday is going to be almost 4 hours long. Pamela, I'm wondering about something. Ed, did you used to do older cases and now you only do recent? Is that correct? No, we just take them as they come, Pamela. Unix was 10 years old. Bonnie Santiago was 6 years old. What are some of the... It just depends on, I don't know. Chelsea Cobos is 4 years old. I mean, we re-examined Robin Abrams. That's 30 years old. Caleb Powell, 6 years old. Gayla Shaper, 41 years old. Marion Hurley, 21 years old. I would not say that we're doing a lot of newer disappearances. I think we're still hovering around that average of about 17 years old. So it may just be a perception on your part. I'm not sure that the facts bear that out, Pamela. Next thing I want to talk about is, unfortunately, I have to mention that we now have another guest who has died. Vicki Wilkerson. She was the guest when we covered her daughter Jennifer Wilkerson's disappearance. Covered that disappearance in July of 2017. And Vicki died this past Sunday, December 20th. I do not know the circumstances. I've heard that she was having some surgery done. I don't know if she died during the surgery or there complications. I don't know. I just know that I had heard something about surgery and that she is now not with us anymore. Very sad. I can tell you every one of these hits me very hard. I think you already know 3 other guests have also died. Jessica Curtis, Donna Jean Kapp, and Janice Norwood. And I've never got to meet any of them. And I didn't get to meet Vicki, although I will tell you that I felt like I knew her. As I've told you, I try to keep in contact with as many former guests of the program as possible. Getting up to around 200 disappearances, that can be difficult. And I will tell you, there are many guests who I've not talked to for a very, very long time. I try to keep in contact with them. But I would say when it comes to Vicki, that she was one of the former guests that I talk to more often. In fact, she's probably in the top 5. I would say number 1 is probably Joyce Rivituzzo. Probably. I don't know if she's in here tonight or not. But probably Joyce, because I probably talk to Joyce once a month. And hello, Jay. And so with Vicki, mainly it was like emails and then once in a while on the phone. And really liked her a lot. And I really was hoping. I do have it on Unfound's long-term agenda to be able to get out on the road a little bit and go to these places where these people have disappeared and get to meet some of their family members and everything, because I haven't met many of the guests. And of course, as you would suspect, it's going to take some doing to make that come together, but it is a goal of mine. I think I have a responsibility to do that. It's now unfortunate to know that Vicki will not be one of those people I get to meet. But I liked her a lot. And I do talk about her passing in the update episode, and then I expound a little bit more about Jennifer's disappearance and maybe reveal some things that some of you don't know that I think I'll be revealing for the first time. So you will just have to listen to the update episode on Friday to hear that. In fact, I had already recorded almost all of the update episode when that happened. So I had to tag that on to the end along with the Unique Harris information, because what I'd like to do is just go back to the beginning and just do them chronologically I did all that. And then this information about Vicki dying, and then Unique Harris's information, I had to tag those on at the end, so they're a little out of order. But I think we covered all, though. Jay says, well, you have long hair now, sir. It's been a while since I stopped in. That's okay, Jay. Yeah, it just keeps growing as long as I stay away from the scissors. But thank you for noticing. Yeah, maybe it's very sad. Yeah. There are updates, Unique's case. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. I'm just going down my list, Jay. Somebody's already typed about it. And you should know that the information is also going to be in the update episode. In fact, I think I'll expound on it a lot more on Friday than I will here on this live show. So Vicki, wherever you are, sorry we didn't get to talk. I hope to someday soon get to talk to Jennifer's sister, who was the one that let everybody know that Vicki had passed on. Hopefully I'll get to talk to her. And, I'm guessing I'll find out more about what happened to Vicki. And because I've never talked to Jennifer's sister at all. Have I? Maybe I had, maybe very early on, way back when, 3.5 years ago or something. But if I did, I don't remember the content of the information, the conversation at all. So it will be like talking to her for the first time. And I hope to, build a good relationship with her now that Vicki has passed on. So very sad. Just sucks. When I found out, it's just, because, we're hoping that these disappearances get solved before these guests pass on. Of course, if you are of a certain spiritual religious belief, then if you believe in the afterlife, and if you're inclined to believe that Jennifer is no longer with us, then, they believe that Vicki and Jennifer are now together, and that's fine. But we at Unfound, or at least myself, speaking for myself as the creator of this program, we deal more here in the material world. And we're looking to get solutions, before people pass away. So, just very sad. Very sad. Let's move on to this. Just a very quick note. Somebody on another group had posted about scammers and everything. And I posted in the group just an example of a family member having a conversation with somebody who was obviously trying to scam them. And I'm not sure the public understands how many con artists there are in the missing persons community. I just don't know. I don't know if, having worked in the car business, we know the reputations that car salesmen have, used car salesmen have. I would say, as a person who used to be in the car business, I would say the missing persons community is worse. So, what I saw in that post does not surprise me at all. And scammers come in all different forms, of people who have dogs that are allegedly scent dogs and they aren't, to, of course, psychics and palm readers and all of that, to private investigators. A lot of private investigators, I'm inclined to believe, are con artists. All different types. I mean, seriously. And just the straight out scammers who say, yeah, I have your daughter if you send me $5,000. I'll get your daughter back to you. And some people have lost a lot of money doing that and put themselves in very dangerous situations going through with that and then losing the money. And of course, their daughter is nowhere to be found. And in fact, many of my guests have been victims of this. We don't talk about that because I don't know if we want to put that out there, because I think that just makes, I think these people are very embarrassed that these things have happened to them. So we don't talk about that, but I know about it. And this is why I tell all of my guests that anytime after you've been on the program, anytime, if somebody contacts you, somebody saying they can do this for you, they can do that for you, you call me. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. You call me, we'll talk about it. somebody promising things, but they want this and they want that. They want to meet you here and they have this and this is what they heard and come meet us. Anything like that, I tell them, you call me and we'll talk about it. Because I think one of the problems is this is not to pat myself on the back too hard, but my impression is most of these guests do not have somebody in their lives that can tell them, don't do that. The police aren't going to do that. They're, of course, we know in so many cases, situations, they can't be reached. And it may be tough for people close to guests and family members to say, no, you can't do that, because they're afraid of hurting that person's feelings because they know them personally and they love them very much and everything. Whereas with me, I think because of my position, I think I can just be a lot more straightforward with them and be a little more objective and try to talk some sense to them. And I think that's what these people need. I find too many guests that have just yes people around them. So they're out there. And I just cannot tell you, the public, enough about how bad it is. How bad it is. The money and everything, the promises and all these things. And I know even for us, we sometimes have to work through that. I know Emily has to work through that, because sometimes one of the first questions we get, were you going to charge us for this or something? Because they've been burned in the past and everything. And we have to work through that. Of course, we don't charge guests anything ever. So, it's a problem. It just is. It's just ugly, but I'm just not a guy who does a program. My assistants aren't just people who help me with the program. We've all become very versed in this part of the missing persons community, and we can all speak very intelligently on it at any time. And anytime any of us talk to any guests who are going to be on the program or have been on the program, we tell them, don't do that. Don't do that. So, but it's an issue, and I'm glad that person, whoever that was, saved that conversation this person was having with some scammer. Tammy asks, if your hair gets really long, will you wear a ponytail or a man bun? Definitely not doing the man bun, Tammy. I really haven't decided that yet. That's just off there in the distance right now, Tammy. That's a good question. Good question. Really trying to avoid that right now. Don't know. I have no idea. When I go to play disc golf, I have a hat on. I don't put anything on my hair. With the humidity, it just push out. So, just don't know yet. Jay says, Nigerian scammers reminds me of the NBC Chris Hansen show. Ruth, it's sad they scan desperate for answers. People, family members, some humans are just foul. Delaying the families are so vulnerable. They are. They're desperate. And that's what predators sniff out, that desperation, for sure. Alice says, straightforward is the best policy, in my opinion. Jamie laughed at that. And Twinkle, thank God, no man bun. Okay, gonna write down Twinkle, no man bun. All right. Let's move on to this. Linda Stoltzfoos, some recent news within the last 48 hours that guy, I still am not sure totally. It looks like Justo, but I've been told it's Julio or Justo or something. Justo, Julio, Mr. Smoker, the smoker guy. He has finally been charged with her murder. To this point, it had just been kidnapping, a couple other charges, but now he's been officially charged with murder. They found pieces of her clothing where he was, but they've still not found her. And if you remember, Linda's disappearance was the first episode I did of Unfound Now. And it wasn't until after that this guy was charged. They had video of him encountering her on her walk, and then her getting into the car. I'm not sure if she was forced to or whatever. It seems to me that, I'm not going to say they knew each other, but it seems to me that he knew her schedule. He knew that she would be walking down there at that time and was waiting for her. That's my perception. I don't know if that's true. But she got in the car, and that was that. So he has finally been charged with her murder, but they've been looking high and low all over the place for her remains, and they've even been able to track his phone and his locations, and they've gone to these places, still have not found Linda's remains. It's just not that easy. Even when we think we have pings, we have this one, they have that, it still can be very, very difficult. So, and that's a disappearance. It started Unfound now this past summer. So that disappearance is what, 6-7 months old now? Something like that. And I think I've done 5 or 6 Unfound now. So that's about right. About 5-6 months ago. Delaney gives me the thumbs up. You don't have to apologize, Louise. That's perfectly fine. Let's move on to this. Somebody wanted me to comment on Adventures with a Purpose, that they're going to be getting involved in Molly Miller Colt Haynes's disappearance in Oklahoma. Wanted me to comment on that. I will admit that I've not had a chance to watch this interview. What was 5 people involved in this Zoom talk or whatever it was, including Paula, Molly's aunt, Molly Miller's aunt, who is on Unfound, talking about their disappearances. And I appreciate her being on the program. I wish Adventure with a Purpose, if you don't, maybe if that name doesn't ring a bell, these are the people who it seems their main line of expertise is diving into rivers and lakes and finding cars. And because of this, they've found a couple missing people who were in their cars. Seems they've had a lot of success doing that, and I think that's great. I wish them all the luck in the world regarding Molly's and Colt's disappearance. I think there was a part of the discussion that was talking about they're going to bring dogs in and everything else. And I think that's all fantastic that this disappearance is getting a lot of attention. My concern is that a lot of searching has already been done. And the searching that needs to be done is on Con Nip's property and some other properties that people aren't allowed to go onto. So, Can Adventures with a Purpose get permission to go on? I don't know. It would be nice if they did. But if you can't search everywhere, then there's always going to be places where it might be that Molly's and Colt's remains are. Being that Adventures with a Purpose, it seems, once again, my perception is that they specialize in water recoveries. I don't think that there's any allegations in Molly and Colt's disappearances that water could be involved. I know that I did several satellite go-overs of that area, and I don't think that there's a major river in the area. Maybe there's some lakes and things, but once again, will they have permission to go into those lakes? And if there are some, it's just, I've never heard anything leading people to believe that the Colt and Molly could be in some body of water around there. I think most people believe, if we are to believe that they were murdered, that they are in Con Nip's property. Of course, we know about the Crooked Sheriff. A lot of different places they could be. If you really want to, there's a lot of rumors surrounding this disappearance. They could be a lot of different places. So I wish Adventures with a Purpose all the luck in the world. But this is a tough one. And a lot of people have been looking into this for a long time. And, but hey, as we know, sometimes maybe it just takes a new set of eyes to look at everything. And if that's what they can bring to Molly's and Colt's disappearances and go in a different way, and that takes them to, down pushes the investigation forward, great. I'm going to say it again. My concern, though, is they're just not going to get access to the places that need to be accessed. All right, let's go to another question. Craziest thing I ever, Jasmine. Yes, I asked that. Okay, Jasmine. Louise says, I can't believe how long your hair is after only a year ago. Well, it's been growing technically, Louise, since my mother died, so that would be 2 years ago. But I did get it cut once, kinda in early maybe 2019, something like that. But no scissors have touched it since. So this, I mean, if you can't see the back is where it's really long. And so essentially it's like 2 years of growth, but I could show you a picture of me when my mother died and my hair was pretty short. Ruth says, sometimes the adventures of the purpose guys, they do get on land that no one else could. Their main goal was and still is open to the rivers and lakes. Yeah. Well, yes, I don't doubt that at all, Ruth. But do we really believe the Nips family are going to allow anybody on their property, given what we know about them? Whether Colt and Molly are on their property or not, do we really think that? I mean, if they want to go on there illegally, then I guess you could do that. Good luck to them. But we also have to remember, if they go on to any piece of property illegally, then any information they get would not be admissible in court. Have to remember that. Louise says, I saw a video of you from 2019. Well, on this YouTube channel, there's tons of videos for me. In fact, if you go back and watch all the live shows going back to late 2018, you can see every week my hair getting a little longer, a little longer, a little longer. Louise, can the police not get a search warrant? Well, they could, but search warrants just aren't given out like candy. I mean, you have to have reasonable reason to be on somebody's property. It's just not that we're suspicious of those people. You need to have evidence that it makes sense to go into that property. And I guess that just hasn't been done yet, not to my knowledge. Long hair does look better on you. Thank you. Let's move on to this. Craziest things I ever bought. I will bring up two. Number one, 2005. I bought a 1990 Mercedes-Benz 560 SEL. If you don't know what that is kind of like the car that you think of like dictators driving, like a dictator, like Saddam Hussein, or this was usually the car that bad guys drove in the late 80s and the early 1990s. Those vehicles do not hold their value very well at all. And I bought one in Las Vegas for like $5,000 in 2005. And I owned it for, let me think. I owned it until I moved there. I owned it over 3 years. And it was a crazy purchase. Fantastic car. I mean, it's so quiet inside. Even after 15 years old, so quiet inside, so smooth, everything. But it burned oil. It had some miles on it, but it still looked fantastic. The car looked fantastic. But it had some miles on it, and it burned some oil that it shouldn't have been burning for it only being as old as it was with those miles. And then the transmission went out on it, and I had to get that replaced, and it's just started nickeling and diming me to death. But while I drove it, it was certainly a conversation item. Considering where I worked at the time and the jobs that I had, to be driving a car like that was certainly, but it was, still don't understand that, it's a Mercedes, it's this big car, it must be really expensive. Well, those cars don't hold their value at all. So, that was a crazy purchase. Probably in retrospect, I would not have bought that. In retrospect, but it was only like $5,000 or something. The other craziest thing I ever bought is, once again, show and tell, was this. Oh, this thing's so heavy. Was this. And maybe even some of you saw me shooting this on a YouTube video that I posted this past summer. And you're asking, well, what is this? And you must understand, I'm not really, being that we were just talking about a Glock 19 as a gift I got like 5 years ago, I'm not really a gun guy. But that was the other craziest thing probably that came to mind. Eileen was the one that asked me that. It's this gun is a shotgun, and it's made by a Russian company called Mulat, Mulat, MOLOT. It's Russian made. It's It is based on an AK-47 platform, actually technically an RPK-74 platform. So the metal on it is thicker. And it is a semi-automatic 12-gauge shotgun. And I got that this past summer. They're fairly rare in the United States. They're not overtly expensive, although their prices are going up because they're getting harder to find. In fact, I'm sure that if I were to buy that gun now, this gun has actually gone up in value since I bought it. But it's a semi-automatic 12-gauge shotgun, meaning semi-automatic means there's no pump or anything like this. You just pull the trigger, and just like a regular handgun, it just shoots. Which most shotguns are not like that. But I had seen a video earlier this year on IREC Veteran 8888 video channel, which is one of the video channels that I watch on YouTube. And he was shooting one. And I said, well, I think that would be pretty cool. So I, as I do with everything that I'm going to buy, really research it, really read up on it, look at pricing and everything. And then I ended up getting it this past summer. And like I said, on the YouTube channel, I think it's unlisted video though, but I've posted a video of me shooting it on Facebook, a link on there. If you go to my personal page, and you'll see me shooting it there, and it's just crazy. This gun, I actually use it for home defense. This shotgun. This is in my condo, like it is all the time. I believe the shotguns are a great home protection weapon, and I'm happy to have one. So that was probably the other craziest thing that I bought, because it's such a wild, unique gun. It's such a unique, especially since it's Russian made. So those are probably the two craziest things I bought. That Mercedes that I owned for about 3 years, and it's called a VIPR 12, semi-automatic 12-gauge shotgun that I got about 6 months ago. Luis says, I cannot believe the police seem to have no authority anymore. They should be able to enter any property or land they want. That's not how we do things, unfortunately, Louise. Need a reasonable cause and some paperwork to do that. That is not a Tommy gun. It is not an automatic machine gun, Twinkle. Those are not legal for personal use in the United States. Yeah. I'm not Rambo. Twinkle says, wow, a shotgun. I've never seen one like that. They're fairly, Twinkle, they're fairly rare. People think of shotguns. They think of the kind, that has like one and then one below, the two below. And those hold like maybe 5 or 6 shotgun shells. This one can hold like 12. And in fact, I have a drum magazine that holds 25. So, but you could see that this magazine that I have on it right now holds 12. Tammy says, have you come more aware of personal safety since you started Unfound? The answer is yes, Tammy. Absolutely. I've had some disgruntled people contact me and not be pleased. And I'm sure that if I had been in their vicinity, or if I lived in the vicinity of where they live, that they might try to track me down. Yes, I would say so. And that's why when I do things, I usually don't, tell people, where I'm, for example, when I go out of town, I don't tell people like a hotel or a motel or Airbnb that I'm staying at. Can't do much about the disc golf tournaments, but even when I'm there, I'm fairly aware of my surroundings. Really don't announce a lot. And as I like to say, I just keep my head on a swivel. So yes, the answer is yes. Hello, Sassy. I didn't hear my reminder. Well, we had some problems at the beginning of this video, Sassy, so don't beat up yourself too much. Eileen says, thanks for answering. Those are great. Yeah, a couple unique items there. A German car and a Russian shotgun. I think those were two good answers. Ruth says we have an AR-15. It's semi-automatic. I also have an AR-15. For civilian use, they are all semi-automatic. I have one of those too. And that was the craziest gun that I bought until I got that. And in fact, Ruth, if you're into that stuff, I will tell you that this shotgun makes my AR feel like a BB gun. Really. I mean, this thing is heavy and it has some kick, whereas the AR is light and has no recoil. Just two totally different types of weapons, and I love them both. They both have their uses, but you hold the AR, and I have a Colt LE 6920, very good mid-quality AR-15, and then you hold this, and it's like a totally different animal. And the funny thing is they're about the same price. All right. What do I want to talk about now? Robbie hurt, still no update. I talked about it last week. Remains found near where his truck was found. I've not seen any updates. Anything more than what I talked about last week. So I really have nothing for you on that. Let's talk about Unique Harris, being that somebody brought it up, and I'm going to be talking about this more, I think, during the update episode, but just some of what I've learned since this has all happened within the last few days. There's a very good Washington Post article that's out there that I would urge all of you to read. It really gets into some of the items that led to Isaac Moy being charged second-degree murder with Unique's disappearance. But you will find in that article that some things, did Valencia leave them out, or did she not know them? You should, as you would suspect, I can't make my guests say things. The way we handle interviews is we only talk about things that the guest wants to talk about. I can't make them. For example, in Valencia's case, she didn't want to talk about any names. Maybe you remember that now. And I like to mention names. As long as we're not being slanderous, libelous, defaming people, etc. My standard is I like to use names, and I will encourage guests to do so. But I can't make them do that. And if they don't do that, then I don't do that. It's not like I'll say, okay, don't use any names, and then afterwards, in my summation, I use the names. That would be wrong. But you're going to read in this article, the Washington Post, of some items that came out that I've never heard before. Some of those items will be that on the night of Unique's disappearance, there is a story in this article that one of the children did open the door and saw Isaac there. And in fact, this little kid knew Isaac by his nickname, which was Iceberg, Iceberg. That I can tell you, Valencia never told me that in all the conversations I had with her. Another item was that a piece of the couch had been removed, like somebody had cut out a piece of the couch. In the article, the guess is made that somebody was trying to remove DNA from the couch by taking that piece of the couch. But it turns out that there was DNA on the couch, and it did go back to Isaac Moy. Now, this is something surely that Valencia would have known, because she was one of the first people to Unique's apartment that next day, but she never mentioned that to me. She never mentioned anything to me about the couch having a piece cut out of it. The other item is that, once again, and this is in this Washington Post article, at the time, Isaac Moy was actually wearing an ankle GPS monitor because he had been charged with some other crime before this. So he was on home monitoring or home arrest or something. And it seems he was wearing this when he went over to Unique's house. This is once again something that I've never heard before. In fact, Isaac's name did not come up in any conversation I had with Valencia. Now, am I mad about that? No. I'm a little disappointed, but I do know, having gotten to know Valencia, is that of all of my guests, she was one of the ones that was really more worried than most about not offending the police. And she kept saying there are things the police told me that I can't say in the interview. And some of these things might have been what she couldn't mention. I can't do anything about that. Doing my best. However, it does lead up to the question, well, if the police had Isaac, if there was DNA on the couch and Isaac was a career criminal and they would surely have his DNA, if this little kid said that he saw Isaac Moy, also known as Iceberg, there that night, and if they could track that Isaac was out of the area he should have been with this ankle monitor, why did it take 10 years to arrest him? That is not in the article, and I don't have that answer. I've not talked to Valencia. I don't know if anybody in the public knows that. This is certainly a little bit of topic of conversation between myself and Cherie and others of my assistants, that what was it that caused this to all happen 10 years later? Why wasn't this done at the time? There's also in the article about how allegedly while Isaac was in jail that he had mentioned about some young woman disappearing. He had talked about that. But surely the DNA, the ankle monitoring, this little kid saying that Iceberg was there certainly goes farther than anything that he would say to some jailhouse informant. But I think what is also obvious here is that this was not a random encounter. Being that the little kid knew Isaac's nickname tells me that Unique and Isaac Moy knew each other. And what does that mean? I don't think any of us really ever thought this was a random encounter. Like somebody just happened upon, her apartment and she just happened to be alone and something happened. I think a lot of us were leaning towards somebody who knew her doing something. I know myself, I was leaning toward her boyfriend at the time, being that he called her and they had a conversation and then suddenly she's missing just hours later. It seemed a little too coincidental to me. But I think this does fulfill the criteria that somebody who harmed Unique did know her. Now, did she and Isaac have a relationship, or did she mention that she was going to be home that night, so knew that she would be there? He does have criminal acts against women on his record. We have to remember that this party in the neighborhood earlier that evening, did he see her there? And we don't know. But what is certainly obvious, that Unique and Isaac knew each other well. When your Unique's son, I think it was, can use the nickname Iceberg to identify the guy that was in the apartment, that means he was probably there often and the little kid encountered this guy and knew his nickname, which means Unique probably knew him fairly well. That doesn't mean they necessarily got along. I don't know. Maybe he'd been trying to do something with her for a long time and got frustrated. And that's why he went over that night. They might not have been friends at all, but they certainly knew each other and just not passing in the street. So that's the update for Unique Harris's. Came out of nowhere. I had no idea that any of this was happening. But the big question right now is, why did it take all this time? What changed between 2012 and now? Because it seems the information they had way back then. Were they hoping? Maybe they were hoping that Unique's remains would turn up somewhere. Now, you should know Isaac. I did check his address. He lived within about a mile away from where Unique lived. So, did he have a car? Did he carry her downstairs and put her in the car? Being that he cut out a piece of the couch leads me to believe that something happened there. It's not like the two left walking together. He probably carried her out. What did he do? Carry her the whole way home, a mile home? Or mile, somewhere else? I don't know if that sounds reasonable. But the article does believe that something violent happened in the apartment. So there we go. Something I didn't see coming, but there it is. Just like so many things. I guess the break on Unfound, you sometimes just do not see these things coming. Did not see, these remains going to be found very close to where Bradley Brooks's car was. No. Jay says, speaking of streaming, do you still use Wirecast? I do not, thank God, Jay. If you believe in that type of thing. Louise, really, have you been threatened by people? Kinda. Yeah, I have. Yes. Not kinda. Yes. Louise, I have. Some ticked off people out there. Louise, are the people who threaten you usually people of interest in your case? A couple, yes, but in one particular situation that goes way back to 2017, the son of a suspect had some choice words for me and everything else. And more recently, with Chris Mittendorf, Christina Branham, Rusty, the guy Rusty, who was mentioned in that episode. He contacted me. In fact, I talk about that in the update episode. He did not threaten me physically. I don't want to say he did not do that, but he was not pleased about how he was represented in that episode. And he talked about getting a lawyer and everything. And there was nothing that we did in that episode that was illegal. Unique Harris is one I had in my mind when I asked my question for tonight. Yes, I remember that. Cool. My whole family are gun collectors. That's interesting, Ruth. I'm really not a gun collector. I'm not, I keep saying it. I'm not really a gun guy. There's just certain applications that I think I need in my life. And I fill those applications. I don't collect guns just to look at them. Some people do that. That's not me. And I don't hunt or anything like that either. Jay says, do you not notice a couch being removed? Well, the couch wasn't removed. A piece of the couch was removed. So like somebody took a knife and took pieces out of it. That's the way I understand it, Jay. Not only is it not mentioned on Unfound, some of the items that I mentioned regarding Unique's disappearance, it's not mentioned on any other podcasts or forums. Well, at least Valencia is consistent. So, hey, it's her forum, Unfound. It's the guest forum. I'm just asking the questions. It's up to them to use this forum to maximum benefit. It's their choice if they don't want to say things. Had I known some of these items through other means, then I could have asked her about them. Now, I don't know if she would have gone on the record and talked about them, but I certainly would have asked her behind the scenes about them. I didn't even know about them. And there was, as Cherie saying, they weren't out there. They weren't out there anywhere. So I don't know how I can ask about things that I don't know about. How can you help if they don't reveal all? Twinkle, it's up to them. This is a forum from them. This is not a forum for me. It's not a forum for my assistants. It's a forum from them. And it's their choice on how much they want to use it to their advantage. Jay says, it always felt like stuff was missing. I guess kind of, Jay, especially since Valencia did not want to name names. So maybe I should have suspected that there was some considerable evidence that she knew about. But like I said, I'm not saying she knew about all of that, but she surely knew about the couch because she was there that next morning. It's because the police tell people not to mention names. They do that a lot. I'm just glad that most of my guests don't listen to them. Delane, they still haven't mentioned this relationship Unique either, have they? They haven't, but it's certainly true that they knew each other. That's the only way that this little kid would know the guy's nickname. It's the only way. What about the 3:30 a.m. phone call? It happened. It happened. I guess we're led to believe it had nothing to do with the disappearance. There's nothing that I've heard that Isaac and Unique's boyfriend knew each other or anything like that. It may be true. I don't know. Jay was saying, I was thinking it was someone in the apartment. I don't think you were wrong in thinking that, Jay. Certainly that the facts that we knew them at the time could be interpreted that way. But as you're hearing, there was a lot that was not revealed. And like I said, I'm inclined to believe that Valencia knew at least some of it. Louise, most of the time it's someone you know that attacks or kills you. I think Louise, true. Random assaults are rare. They happen. It's certainly a percentage. It's certainly a notable percentage of all crime, but it's certainly not even close to a majority of crime. And that's why so many times on Unfound, when we talk about disappearances involving foul play, we are talking about people who knew the victims. But I think there are at least a few where we think it was foul play and it was nobody that these people knew. So those do happen, but they're in the minority. Twinkle says maybe the publicity helped. I really don't know at this point, Twinkle. Is it a coincidence that we covered her disappearance a couple months ago and this happened? I really don't know. Being that there was no mention of Isaac Moy or any of this information, maybe not. But just don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I just don't know. It's no different than with Up and Vanished with Tara Grinstead. There are many people believe that show had absolutely everything to do with Tara's, those guys being charged and, being convicted of murdering Tara. There are other people who believe it had nothing to do and it was just perfect timing. I don't know. What I do know is that Tara Grinstead's remains have still not been found. So, to me, that case is still open. You know how we look at those situations on Unfound, that we don't do an in memoriam until remains are found. And we know actually the cause of death. Kathy says Unique had only lived there a few weeks. Yeah. Yep, Kathy. Did the kid see anything happen to his mother? Allegedly, he heard something that his mother said. Don't do that. Stop doing that. Allegedly. But I think most importantly was what he saw. He heard some guy out there. He opened up the door and saw Iceberg. I think that's the most important part. Louise, if the boy named him as Iceberg, the police did nothing, took 10 years to arrest him. How could have been killed knowing what he knew? I guess that's true, Louise. Yeah. Tammy, I like that you spoke about the issue of luring when it comes to disappearances. What could be a red flag to watch to prevent being lured? Tammy, I think that usually luring has something to do with getting people to do things they normally wouldn't do. Go meet me here at 3 a.m. Come over to my house. Nobody's home. Or you're at home, a woman's at home, and a guy shows up unexpectedly and says, hey, let's go for a ride. Those are all versions of luring. Now, that doesn't mean they're all going to lead to disappearances, but they may lead to violence. A rape, an assault, robbery, things like that. So what, I would say to that, and this luring happens to men too, certainly does. In fact, I just wrote a blog about it. But for women, I think you need to be more cognizant of that. And if something seems weird, don't do it. And if you're inclined to do something weird, let everybody know where you're going and who you're with, and check in with those people often. Luring is a huge part of disappearances. Huge. So yeah, convincing people to do things they normally wouldn't do. It's no different than, using lures and fishing. Getting those fish to go after that bait, get them hooked and reel them in to the boat. It's the same thing that predators are doing human on human. Trying to lure their prey somewhere, get them to do something, and bad things happen. On the other hand, we know of a lot of disappearances that have nothing to do with that. Marion Hurley, Angela Green. Doesn't sound like Unique Harris. Doesn't sound like a luring situation. I mean, he showed up at her place and something happened in her place. So, but luring certainly, one that just jumps out to me, being the two people have been charged with his disappearance and death, Tyler North. He was lured to that park by his ex. She lured him with sex. ex-husband, ex-wife. Oh, let's get back together. Let's meet in this park. He shows up, she and her boyfriend there, something happens. That is the textbook definition of luring. So it happens to guys too. And it usually involves sex with, it just depends on the gender, on what the best items are to use for luring. Of course, when drugs, not just drugs, then drugs are a great way to lure men or women anywhere. And so drugs oftentimes play a role in disappearances involving luring. Louise, do the police like what you do in trying to crack these missing cases, or do they think that you hinder them? I can tell you that I've never had a police officer tell me I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I have police officers that I talk to behind the scenes. Of course, you all know about Dr. Telesco, who I'm very good friends with, and we've talked about many disappearances, not just on the program, but behind the scenes. That guy that I talked to regarding the disappearance, I'm going to cover next Friday. At no time did he say not to do it or not to say anything, and I don't want you to mention this, and I don't want you to ask Tom that or anything. But I can tell you that many of my guests have been told, don't do media interviews. And then I have to give them the speech on why police say that. But I've never had a police officer call me up, email me, or anything else saying, I don't want you to cover this disappearance. I found out you're going to cover disappearance, and I don't want you to do it. In fact, it's kind of been the opposite. For example, when I covered Julie Weflin's disappearance with John Polos, the main investigator on that one contacted me afterwards and thanked me for the summation that I did at the end, where I said that, I'm not sure that, I appreciate John's passion, but it seems maybe his investigation has gone off the rails at least a little bit. And the investigator thanked me for saying that. So there's that. It's like the opposite. By the way, I forgot to mention this. If you're watching the video tonight, please give it the thumbs up and like this video so that we can pop up on the YouTube algorithms. It's the first time I've said that tonight. We kind of got off on the wrong foot on this video, this live show tonight. So do not forget to do that before you leave tonight. Or if you're watching it in rerun, you can give it a like there as well. Alice, why didn't the ankle bracelet alert police he had left his home? I have no idea, Alice. Louise, Alice thinks sometimes they could take them off somehow. I don't think he took it off. I think he just went... the way you read the article, it says that his ankle bracelet pinged in the vicinity of her apartment. So I don't know. Men lured by fake profile. Yeah, catfishing, Jay. That's, lured by women. Yeah. That does happen. The fishing lure. Thank you, Twinkle. Elizabeth, women need to be especially careful these days with so much unemployment and homelessness. A lot of desperate people out there, for sure. Lure, the promise of something, right? Or it could be just something along the lines like we've all seen Silence of the Lambs, where Buffalo Bill lured that girl into his van by getting him to help her put that couch in it. And he remember he was pretending he was injured, like an arm or something, and she felt sorry for him. She goes over there to help him put that, and she's gone. That happens in real life. I know there have been serial killers that have used that exact tactic to lure women and kill them. So that's, working on somebody's sympathy is another way to lure them. Yeah. May the next live stream go smoother. Amen to that, Ruth. Jay, just saw a clip of the update. They had the ex-boyfriend's mom on instead of Valencia. Never seen or heard of her before. No. The way the news says it is Central Virginia family. Just saw a clip of the update. They had the ex-boyfriends. The guy with the stolen Bobcat, I think he was lured also. Jonathan Estes, Sheree. Yeah. Might have been lured out. Of course, there's still a belief out there. It could have had something to do with the police in the area, being that he said to his friend on the phone, hey, there's some police out there. I'm going to see what's going on. So, yeah. So that's Valencia Harris. I'm guessing there's going to be continuing to be breaking news on that, but The big issue is, will they find her remains? If Isaac did kill her, will he get some discount on his sentence to reveal what he did with her and where she is? The tough part is if he threw her in a garbage bin somewhere, then she's in some landfill many, 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 many feet down. So Louise Ted Bundy, yes, he relied on the sympathy of his victims. That's true. That's totally true, Louise. Just a couple more questions, and then we'll go over update episode for Friday. Laura asked me my favorite Christmas movie. I'm gonna say it's A Christmas Story. Ralphie, in fact, I just DVR'd it yesterday or the day before, so I can watch it in July. And I think that that's my favorite Christmas movie. However, you should know that I do consider Die Hard to be a Christmas movie. I do consider Lethal Weapon to be a Christmas movie, and I'm a big fan of the Christmas Vacation movie with Chevy Chase. And the funny thing about A Christmas Story and A Christmas Vacation is they were not popular when they came out. They did not start getting popular and get to the level of status they now have in the 21st century till many years after they came out. Vacation came out in 1989. Did not do really that great at the box office. It's only since it came to cable and everything that it is now a staple of every December, and everybody loves it, and everybody knows all the lines from it and everything else. But at the time, it was a little bit of a flop. A Christmas Story with Ralphie going, story from the 1940s, getting his BB gun. Same way, it came out, got some decent reviews, but nothing big. But it didn't become a thing until it came out in VHS in the 1980s, and they started playing it on cable, and now it's one of the most recognizable Christmas movies ever. But it's just funny how things change when these movies come out in theater. Back then, not as popular, but now everybody loves it. Everybody says, "Oh, I've loved that from the first time it came out." Well, the stats say otherwise. It seems that people didn't get onto these movies until much after they came out. But I would have to say A Christmas Story, but I'm still a big fan of those other movies too. Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, A Christmas Vacation. I'm also a big fan of Charlie Brown Christmas, which we did in high school when I was in 8th or 9th grade, drama club. And I played Schroeder because I could play the piano. So I was playing the Christmas or the Charlie Brown theme and everything. So I played Schroeder in a Charlie Brown Christmas when we put on that production at Leechburg High School. Like I said, I want to say 9th grade, but I think it was 8th grade. So I was an 8th grader, and there was seniors in the other parts, and here I am in 8th grade. Really, because I was the only person who could play the piano, I think. Charlie Brown Christmas, Jay says, Vince Grimald soundtrack is amazing. The ice skating song, Christmas Vacation, is my go-to movie. Good night, all. Louise, see ya. Thank you for joining us tonight. Merry Christmas, Louise. Yeah. Good night, Elizabeth. Yeah. So I would say A Christmas Story just because it's darkly humorous. I mean, there's some really good gags in it, but I like the darkness of he's going to lose his eyesight and he's blind, and the little kid swearing and eating the soap and all that stuff. It's just so good. It's just so good. Alexandria Lawitzer is an interesting case. Louise, I'm very familiar with that. I've actually talked to her mother a few years ago, but we just not gotten together on anything yet. Delane asked me, and I think she's in here, Delane. She asked me about forensics. Are there any, like Bonnie's, if we're to believe this blood in the van was Bonnie's, are there any other cases where I can bring up forensics that Unfound covered? Delane, I'll have you. I went through all the 200 cases fairly quickly, just trying to probe my mind. These are some that I think have forensics to them, but without me going back and really checking all of my notes on every single interview, it's the only way I'd really be for sure. Linda K. Carroll, I remember because some of her hair was caught in a door jam, like she had been dragged out of her house. Of course, it's believed her estranged husband killed her. Tom Brown, we all know about that, blood being in his Durango. Kimberly Raymer, for some reason, it came to my mind that might have been some forensics in that, but I could be wrong. Dorianne Myers, remember her house got burned, but I think the reason was because there was forensics there, and I think that police did end up getting some forensics, believing that something did happen to her in her house. Kamisha Hollis, I think there was some forensics there. Of course, we know that the father of her children is going to be going on trial in 2021. Certainly Rodney Kaiser, if you will remember, he disappeared. His truck was found at this other property they had where there was a trailer. And it was his sister who said she went in there where there was blood splatter, and she never did find those pictures, unfortunately. In the video, she must have lost them over time. It's an old disappearance. But she said that there was forensics. There was blood in there that might have been Rodney's. And then, of course, Unique Harris, being that we now know that there's some forensics involved in that disappearance as well, that some forensics, something of DNA nature was left on the couch of her apartment. So, Delane, those are just a few, once again, really quick off the top of my head. There may be a few more, and I might have included one or two in here that maybe I thought have forensics and don't. But those are some of the ones that came to my mind just going down through the list. So let's go to your dad should be listening tonight just for the family memories. Delane, I'm just going to be honest with you. Just takes no interest in the program at all. He says he's always going to watch the live show and everything and never does. Don't care. I'm just telling you. Delane, oh yeah, I do remember a couple of those now. Okay. This Friday, update episode number 7. Of course, the last one was in August, the last Friday of August 2020, and then we did one at the end of April. We're doing them every 4 months, so the next one will be in April of 2021. It's weird. In leading up to the recording of it, I had said that I don't think that this episode was going to be that long, and now it's almost 4 hours long. It's going to be one of the longer ones. In fact, I think the first one I did in 2018 was the longest, simply because I was doing updates going back to the full start of the program. So it was almost 2 years of stuff. Whereas this, just 4 months, and it's almost 4 hours long. So a lot of updates. And one of the major themes of this update episode, is we're going to be looking for a lot of trials in 2021. Andrea Bowman, Dennis Bowman, Austin Pivo, his murder. I just mentioned Kamisha Hollis, maybe Steve Pankey, Jonathan Estes, just mentioned earlier with the stealing of the Bobcat. They're lining up. And, of course, Zoe Campos, Carlos Rodriguez has still not stood trial. So we got a lot of trials that should be happening in 2021 if COVID will let it happen. That's a major theme of this update episode. And as I stated, I did all of them, and then Vicki Wilkerson died, and then this Unique Harris information. So I tacked those on at the end. And, of course, some of the other ones that are very recent. The Robbie hurt. Could there be something there with those remains found near his truck? And then I also got to include Bradley Brooks and those remains being found. So some of these things are very, very new, not just from a month ago or, October, but just within the last week. And I have to predict then, once this update episode comes out this Friday, that you just watch. In January, probably some things will happen. And then, of course, I'll talk about it in the live show. But as far as an update episode, I won't be able to talk about them on an episode until April. So it's like 3 hours and 50 minutes, something like that. I haven't really had any complaints on the length of the episodes. This is just what you do. And I know it's very unique how long these episodes can be, just for, the disappearances that we do, of course, just recently with Robin Abrams' disappearance, for example, revisiting that. Cameron Remmer's episode was very long. Tom Brown's episode was very long. Sometimes that's just what it takes. I don't think there's a lot of filler in those episodes. I think that, when I do that beginning part, it's only 8 minutes long between setting everything up, a little bit of Unfound news. It's only 8 minutes. And then with the interviews, I try to make sure that it's information packed. And then my summation at the end usually are not that long, 3 or 4 minutes. So, if it's going to be that long, I want to make sure that there's a lot of information that's being covered. It's just not, back and forth, banter that I think you do get a lot of podcasts that are just an hour long, and if there's co-hosts for half of that, they're just jabbering back and forth. So I'd like to think it's like the most information packed podcast out there, even though some of these episodes can be very long, but I still think the average episode is only 2 hours long, a little under that. And of course, Bonnie Santiago's last week was probably one of the shorter ones, and mainly because there's just not a lot of information. If there's a lot of information, it's long. If there's not a lot of information, it's short. It's less than average. So this Friday, update episode number 7. So you're just going to have me talking this week. No, I want everybody emailing me and saying, hey, I couldn't hear the guest this week. So what did we do tonight? We did a lot. Unfortunately, my computer over here is locking up. We covered a lot tonight. We talked about, unfortunately, the passing of Vicki Wilkerson. I showed you the card that I got from Paula. I showed you the gift I got from Kim. Showed you one of the more interesting purchases that I had. Talked about Valencia Harris. Talked about scammers. Talked about, Patreon, no blog this week. I'd love to do a recap as I usually do, but there we go. Is this going to unlock? I don't know why it's just doing this. But it's been a weird live show tonight. YouTube messing me up, and then my Dell laptop over here having a mind of its own. But I enjoyed talking to all of you. I hope all of you have a beautiful Christmas. And I hope you have a very safe New Year. Yes, the update episode is coming out on Friday, Christmas Day. And yes, next Friday's episode, I'll be doing the interview on Sunday. We'll be coming on New Year's Day. So I'll wish you a Merry Christmas now. And then next Wednesday for the live show next week, I'll hope that you have a Happy New Year. Do not forget to hit the like button before you leave tonight. Let's see if it's going to let me do this. Hold on. I want to go through the list again just because. Dad's here. He's going to get his tooth pulled on Sunday. Bonnie Santiago poll. Bradley Brooks. Valencia Harris. Robbie Hurt. Adventures with a Purpose. Linda Stoltzfoos. Scammers. Vicki Wilkerson. Patreon. No blog this week. Upcoming disappearance. Had a discussion with the main investigator. Took some fantastic questions tonight. I'm glad I could do a little show and tell. And then finally, update episode number 7 this Friday. Good night, everyone. Thank you all. Sorry for the problems at the beginning. I'll try to get those sorted out so we're a little smoother next week. Good night.